Hey guys, it's Pam. Welcome back to my channel, Simple Solo Living. So something scary happened to me a couple of years ago, and I've been meaning to make a video about this. And it's something that doesn't really get talked about in the media all that often. I'm not sure why. It also, when I did a search for it on here on YouTube, there really weren't a lot of videos that came up about it. So I kind of wanted to put like a little PSA Storytime video up. And if this can save someone's life, make someone more aware, then it's totally worth it. So I'm talking about choking. Choking is something we think that it only happens to little kids when they put a foreign object in their mouth. But the truth is the age range that is most at risk for it are people 65 and older. I guess the latest statistics that I found said that over 4,000 Americans age 65 and older choke to death in the United States every year. And it's with that age group, it's usually attributed to like loss of like muscle strength in the face and the mouth, problems swallowing because maybe they had a stroke or they might have dementia, dentures not fitting well, or other oral health dental problems. And a lot of it too is just, you know, someone may have none of those problems, but they overestimate how much food they can take and swallow at one time. Um, if you suffer from acid reflux, and I do from on occasion, sometimes after so many years, your throat gets a little scar tissue developed in there from the acid, burping up the acid, and it can actually narrow like your airway opening. And so now you need to be careful to take smaller bites of food and swallow smaller amounts of food. Um, what happened to me a couple of years ago was I was in work, and it was the day after a potluck lunch at our office, and I was enjoying the leftovers. One of my coworkers had brought in some roasted chicken, pork with rice. It was starting to get a little dry by that point, so I was shoveling forkfuls of it in my mouth. I was hungry, and I must have taken too much and tried to swallow too much because I could tell like I had a problem. It was like impacted. And so I grabbed water, drank it. The water immediately came up on me. I coughed it right up. The water couldn't go anywhere. I had nowhere to go. So that was really scary. I ran over to the sink. I was in distress. I started coughing, choking. And I remember most, I had this awful pain developed right between my shoulder blades, my upper back. It was this awful, searing, severe pain. And luckily, I wasn't alone. My coworkers came in. One of them gave me the Heimlich maneuver, and I coughed everything up, and then the pain immediately went away. And another coworker told me this happened to her at a restaurant. It was a piece of apple, and she couldn't get it to go either way. And the EMT workers used a tool that looked like a cheese grater, stuck it down her throat, and that's how they were able to dislodge it. And that didn't sound very pleasant either. But, I couldn't stop thinking, like, what would I have done if this had happened to me at home? And honestly, when I tried to do research on this, there really isn't a lot that anyone can really do at home if you find yourself choking. I mean, I guess the best thing you can do is call like your local police, 911, try to get an ambulance over there. And I'm thinking, how would you even be able to communicate with them and let them know like you're in distress and you're choking? You can try to do the Heimlich maneuver on yourself. There is a technique they talk about where you can lean over a chair really hard or a countertop and kind of try to duplicate that, recreate that in an up motion that someone would do with their fist underneath your rib cage. You can try to do that. There are anti-choking devices. The jury's out on them on how effective they are because kind of a hard thing to study. You would have to have like actual people that were choking and then try to study like how effective they were at removing the food. But they look like an oxygen mask with a suction attached to it that you can pull on it, and the vacuum suction action is supposed to like dislodge the food, but medical professionals are hesitant right now to endorse them because they really don't know how effective they are. I guess it wouldn't hurt to have one in your home, but it's kind of scary to think that, it might not work on you. What are you supposed to do? In Japan, I read about a Japanese woman that she actually used her vacuum cleaner attachment in her dad's throat and was able to suck the food out and get it out of his airway. And speaking of Japan, they have a problem over there with a type of dessert that's called mochi. We sell it over here too, but I think it's more popular, obviously, over there. It's a rice-based dough, and they make desserts out of it. And it's sort of like a marshmallow in that it's elastic, it's chewy, it can expand in your throat. And unfortunately, every year when they celebrate their New Year in Japan, there's usually like several choking deaths in elderly people because of mochi, because it's just so easy to get it caught in your throat. And to that effect, I have like certain foods that are sort of my trigger foods that I need to be careful of. One of them are noodles. So noodles are kind of the same way. They can be chewy, elastic, and I don't have an issue with like smaller, thinner noodles like angel hair pasta, but there are some noodles that are Asian that are like wider and thicker, like udon noodles and other types of noodles. So I need to be careful with those. I can't eat put too many of that in my mouth at one time and try to swallow them. Another food that's a problem for me that I need to be careful are potatoes, but particularly like French fries. So there's one place I like to order food from once in a while, and their French fries are like a thick steak cut one, and I don't know if it's just they're overly starchy or how they make them or where they get them from, but those one time I was eating them and I started to get that feeling in my throat like I did the day that I almost choked in work. So I had to stop and flush them down with a drink, and then I was fine. But it's just scary. It's like, okay, I need to be careful and take like really, really small bites of these French fries because obviously they want to get caught in my throat. Any kind of food that can't be dissolved easily with a beverage, you just need to be careful of. So, meat, steak. A lot of people choke on steak or start to choke on steak because it can be tough and fibrous. And if you don't chew it well enough, you can't really dissolve that. You can't dissolve that at all with water or another beverage. It's just not going to go anywhere. And, that makes sense because I was eating the leftover chicken and pork, which was on the dry side. Something like pulled pork, which is like shredded and slow cooked and it's like moist and it's in barbecue sauce. I don't think you'd have much of a problem with that. It's easier just to get that down, to swallow it and wash it down. But any kind of meat that like really needs to be chewed well, you just need to chew it well and be really, really careful. So I really hope this never ever happens to you. Hope it never happens to a loved one. And it's not something, even if you're single and you live alone, you need to be aware of it because there could be an incident where you are home alone. Your partner might be on a trip or they're out running errands. And it's like you just need to be careful. Need to be careful and more mindful with your eating. And that's what I've tried to do ever since then. Unfortunately, knock on wood, I've never had an issue. Let me know if this has ever happened to you or a loved one. Or have you ever started to choke and were you able to save yourself at home? I would like to hear. I hope you're having a great day. I know this wasn't a very happy topic, but I think it's an important one to discuss. Hope everyone's having a good day. I will talk to you guys again later. Bye.